Good morning, everybody. It's Tommy D, your friend, Tommy DiMisa, the nonprofit sector connector. And I call myself that because I'm very passionate about this sector. I'm passionate about the work that the nonprofit sector is doing each and every day. And as I said in the green room earlier, this is certainly tops in my favorite Zoom meetings each month because I get to be with my nonprofit roundtable family and I get to hear the incredible impact that these organizations are making. My colleague and collaborator on this, Deska of Nonprofit Sector Strategies, will be doing double duty today. She's actually collaborating and she is in the hot seat as the speaker. So we're very excited. It is going to be a discussion around strategic planning, sort of an aha moment. That's an acronym for ask her anything related to strategic planning and growth. Different strategies like that. She has some prepared remarks and then we will open it up to Q&A. But what I can tell you about this community is it's all about relationships. It's all about connecting and it's all about collaborating. So it'll be a very open conversation. I do have some prepared questions to go through with Christine if need be. I expect that you guys will take those questions away. So if you're just watching the recording after this, you can always connect with us. It's the fourth Thursday of every month from 8:15 a.m. Eastern time until 9:55 a.m. if you want to be in the room. Otherwise, you can always check out these videos where you found this one. All right, so what we're going to do, gang, is let me introduce myself a little bit further. I'm actually one of the partners in the Vanguard Insurance Agency, which is an employee benefits firm. And I am the host of Philanthropy in Focus, which is a weekly radio show where I amplify the message for nonprofit organizations. I bring on an executive leader each Friday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, and I interview them and have them tell their story. And then I have a second show, and one of my friends that's here today was on the show yesterday, and we just happened to say, hey, you're a nonprofit. You should probably plug into what we're doing and meet some great folks. That show is called the Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. It's all about animal advocacy, professionals who are in that space, or business people who have a focus on advocating for animals and organizations who serve that community. So that's a really cool show. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I don't understand any of what goes on in the animal advocacy world, and I'm learning every week, which is super exciting because it's stuff I didn't know that now I'm learning, and now I can help tell these stories and be an advocate. So, all right, so this meeting happens this way. Each time we meet, we go around the room, we have each person introduce themselves. While this is not a networking group in any sort of traditional sense, I, as a connector and a networker, cannot allow a room full of people that could potentially help each other out not tell each other what they do, because that doesn't make sense in my mind. So since this is kind of my meeting, I take liberties and make that rule that that's what it is. So here's how we're going to do this. I will be allowing other people to sneak in the room. You might hear a little beep or a tone, try to ignore it unless it's only on my side, and then you didn't hear it anyway. So here's what we'll do. We'll start. Don't move from where you are. Stay in the seats you're in so I know where everybody is. That's just a joke. So, all right. So here's what we're going to do. Vickyellner, because Vicky, I know you already spoke this morning, so we'll have you speak again. We'll go from Vicky after Vicky April, and it'll go just like that. Like I'll tell you who's coming up, so you'll have some time to prepare. I would encourage everybody to do a couple things. When you're not the speaker, listen for keywords, take a note, write a note down. If Vicky says something that is relevant to Sherry or Tanya, I would encourage you, give each other contact info in the chat. You can also use the Encaptive platform where everybody either has or will have a bio there, so they can go in there and get access to your information, your contact information. Got it, Carl. All right, so we'll do this. So let's go Vicky and then April, and I will continue to just prep you as we go through. Take it away, Vicky.
Hi, good morning, everybody. And, first I have to open saying there's so much about this group that speaks to me as a professional, as a person. I'm strongly connected to the not-for-profit world, having been the founder of a not-for-profit that I ran for about 20 years, focusing on aging issues. And to that, right now I'm on the board of directors of New York Statewide Senior Action Council, which is a grassroots advocacy organization. We'll be celebrating 50 years next year. That is a voice for seniors and aging issues. I also do community organizing for a organization called Gray Panthers, the New York City chapter, also focused on aging issues, including ageism, social justice, and very much focused on issues right now related to COVID and the after effect of what happened to seniors in nursing homes. And I also tell you I'm a nurse by background, and for the benefit of people on the call, I did most of my nursing with the special needs population, and I'm thrilled to be here today. Thank you, Tommy and Christine, for putting this together.
I am so glad I saw you a couple months back that you became part of this community. We know each other forever, but I'm glad that you're part of what we're doing here. It certainly brings a lot of value.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tommy.
You're welcome. April, and then Sherry, who was one of our speakers in the past, was in the hot seat. So April, and then Sherry Goldman, please.
Everyone, my name is April Raybar. We actually are out of Germany. We are stationed here near Ramstein Air Base. And so, Vicky, I'm also a nurse, so it's nice to see another nurse on the call. I've been a nurse for 15 years, and about 10 years ago, I started a medical program out of Ecuador in the Amazon rainforest, working with the indigenous tribes down there, kind of helping them navigate some of their health problems they were having due to a lot of oil spills and toxic waste in their waters. So just this past year, we were approved by Selva Vida Sin Fronteras down in Ecuador to start a US branch of their organization. So we're going to be a separate nonprofit, but we'll be working closely with them. So again, that's Selva Vida Sin Fronteras, and it'll be the USA sector. And what we're trying to do is provide the medical care and food and funding for that, and then eventually kind of go into building a business where we're promoting sustainable products that the communities, the indigenous communities, are actually making, and help them kind of build a sustainable income for themselves. So eventually we can turn over the profits to them and have them run their own side of the business. So that's kind of our mission right now.
April, I have a quick question. How did you find out about our group?
So Christine and I actually went to school together 20 years ago.
Okay. Christine Deska and you. Oh my God, so cool. Awesome. All right, very cool. Glad to have you. And like I joked earlier, I've been in my attic for the last year and a half. They let me out for coffee and for other things, but I've been in my attic, and seeing the way your ceiling is, I was like, are you in an attic? I was like, so I'm like, I had like attic. I got excited about your attic there. So, all right. So thanks for being here. Excited to meet you. So we will go to Sherry, followed by Tanya, please.
Morning. Hi, I'm Sherry Goldman. My company is Goldman Communications Group. I'm the first non-nurse here, so I'm a non-nurse. I'm actually somebody who works with nonprofits. My company is a public relations marketing communications agency. We work with a tremendous amount of nonprofits, help them in strategic counsel, help you guys get your message out. So we do the publicity, editorial coverage, print broadcast, online media. We help create the events that take you out in the community, that engage your donors, prospective donors, volunteers, legislators, and do crisis communications planning. So a little bit of everything for, we do it for profit sector too, but we do a tremendous amount of work with nonprofits around the country.
Thank you, Sherry. And Sherry was one of our speakers. It was earlier this year, actually, around PR.
No, actually, Tommy, you know what it was?
Last
It
year.
was supposed to be in person. It was the first thing they
the first
stopped.
one.
The first one that the World
Yes.
Week was shutting down, and Christine came to my apartment.
Yes.
That was the first thing ever on Zoom. Nobody knew what to do. It was
March of
bizarre.
or it was March. Yeah, that was March of 20. That's that long ago.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. All right.
Mhm.
Wow. Time flies, you know, when
That was scary.
when you're locked in.
Scary almost 2 years.
That we do have that recorded. So if you want to see things on PR, reach out to me and we'll hook you up on that to get you access to that. Tanya, I'm glad you're here. This is like, I mean, we had so much fun yesterday. One of my most fun episodes of the Professionals and Animal Lovers show. So after Tanya, we're going to have my friend Adele introduce herself. So Tanya, take it away. You saw how it's done. I think you can handle this.
Well, thanks for having me. My name is Tanya Dibel, and I started a nonprofit called Joeys Paw. And what we do is we provide the funding to purchase wheelchairs and prosthetics for dogs. We fundraise specifically for each dog, and we end up purchasing them. Our goal is to get as many dogs out of rescues and shelters and get adopted. We are not limited to dogs, but that is our main goal. But we have helped cows, donkeys, chickens, turkeys. Yeah, we've helped a lot of animals.
Charlie, you say raccoon? I thought
we did help a raccoon too. Yeah.
I thought you said raccoon yesterday on the show, and we never got back to actually me asking you that. I saw a whole bunch of them going through my garbage pails like a week ago, like right around when it was dark, and they went in the pail and came back out of the pail. It was a trip to watch. We videoed it. They probably go.
Yeah, they were just filming a Geico commercial.
The raccoons in my driveway. Maybe I'll get a cut of that action a little bit. Well, didn't you say like not a Komodo dragon, but like some kind
bearded dragon, a bearded dragon.
Yeah, a wheelchair for a bearded dragon.
Yeah, and a guinea pig, a turkey, goats. Yes.
I love it.
Yesterday we actually, it was a momentous day. We hit 1,000 in a little over 3 years.
Yeah.
1,000 animals that you've helped out. Incredibly special. Thank you for being here, and I'm glad you're going to become part of the community here and connect. So utilize the chat, everybody, as I was saying, because some of the things we were talking about on the show yesterday was around fundraising, right? Tanya and Charlie was about fundraising, growth, and how do you do that? There's people in this room that have grown major organizations, and there's people that are starting out organizations, and it's everywhere in between. So utilize each other, utilize the community. If you can't get in touch with somebody else, through the chat, reach out to me, and I'll make sure that you make that connection. So thank you guys both for being here. I'm thrilled that you're going to be part of doing. Let's go to Adele, and then Deacon John Dibiase after that.
Good morning, everyone. Adele Viola. I am a cause entrepreneur with One Hope Wine. We are a charitable wine company that helps nonprofits raise money through the sale of wine. And basically anything that's purchased, once I create a link for you, is giving back with every bottle purchased. So I started this because I wanted to raise money for animal rescues because I have a dog obsession. And when I started, it was during the pandemic, and it was because I saw a lot of people who had adopted dogs start returning them when life was opening back up again. And that just made me so angry. So I had to do something. So this was my way of helping. So if anybody is looking to raise money or just have some delicious wine and help other people raise money, I would love to give you some information. We have donated over $7.5 million to over 25,000 organizations. So we are definitely a charity-based company. So I would love to help anybody just raise money. We do personalization, personalized bottles and boxes. You can send corporate gifting, personalized gifting just to friends and family. The wine is absolutely delicious. Robert Mondavi Jr. is one of our winemakers. Nice. And it's just an incredible way to raise money. Everybody's drinking. They should be donating while they're doing it.
Wow. No truer words. Everybody's drinking. We should all make a couple bucks while we do it. But listen, your passion for the nonprofit sector and dogs especially, I mean, maybe there's a connection, maybe there's a love connection here with Joeys Paw right out of the gate, so to speak. But we will make those connections as needed if you guys haven't done it already. So we'll go to John, and thank you, Adele. John Dibiase, followed by Melissa Greenberger, please.
Okay, John Dibiase, retired executive director of Anabec. I retired, I didn't get fired. I always like to say that. I'm a dementia trainer, new granddad. I play guitar and write songs. I have 2 rescues living in my house right now. One didn't get along with the baby, and so he's come to live with us, and we're taking good care of him. He actually started off here. And I've started a book on medieval hospitals, which is really, I've retreated to my first love, which is history.
You reading the book or writing the book?
No, I'm writing it.
You're writing a book on medieval hospitals?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
They didn't start off as hospitals the way we know hospitals. In fact, one of my furry friends is sitting next to me. And I'm also on the board. I'm sorry, Susan, I saved it, the best for last. I serve on the board of Options for Community Living. In fact, I have just become the treasurer by default.
Congratulations.
And I love being here. I look forward to this.
We love having you part of this this group, John. Thank you. Let's Melissa Greenberger, and then we will go to Sue DeCanto over at Options for Community Living.
Good morning, everybody. So this is the last time I get to make this introduction. Yeah, so Tommy's like stunned. So I'm finishing up my my 5 incredible years at Pro Bono Partnership, where I'm a senior staff attorney. Starting a brand new opportunity next week. I'm going into the philanthropy world, and I am going to be working at the Long Island Community Foundation. Super excited to be doing that. But yeah, thank you. But
Good
I
to
would
have a
not
friend
miss.
over there. It's good to have a friend at the community fund, for sure. Yeah.
So I would not miss this group. This really is, Tommy, like you say, one of my favorite groups. I love starting my morning with everybody here. Pro Bono Partnership is a nonprofit organization. We provide pro bono legal assistance to nonprofits in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, outside of New York City, however. Anything from contracts, employment, real estate, corporate governance documents. If it can be drafted, we can probably assist with it. And we also provide pro bono opportunities to attorneys who want to do pro bono work. My colleague, Mindy Lund, is also on this morning, and I'll let her introduce herself in a little bit. But again, I've enjoyed working with so many of the people who are on this platform, and hopefully our paths will continue to cross. And I want to thank every single one of you for everything that you do for the nonprofit sector, especially here on Long Island. And if there's anything Pro Bono Partnership can do for you, feel free to reach out to Maurice Siegel. I put in the chat, we have a few upcoming webinars. We're doing something on employee classifications, navigating conflicts of interest. My colleague Judy is doing with David Goldstein through the Nonprofit Resource Hub. That's coming up on November 9th. And then we have one on contracts basics. So take a look at our webinars, and best of luck.
That's awesome. Congratulations, Melissa. I did not know that you were going to make that announcement. So I did look like a little kid, like, what? Like I'm totally psyched for you. I know, I wouldn't say I know David very, very well, but I know David O'Corn, I've met over the years. That's where you're going, right? So yeah, so that's great. And that certainly could be a boon for all of us, having a friend over there. So thank you for the announcement, and all the best of success. I don't say good luck. I say good skill. So good skill where you're going.
Thank you.
So cool.
I appreciate it.
I just, before I go to Sue and then we'll go to Carl, I just want to make one quick announcement, because it was mentioned the Nonprofit Resource Hub it's just that. It's an organization that it is a resource to the nonprofit sector. My firm, Vanguard Insurance Agency, and 4 other firms founded this organization. Christine's company, Nonprofit Sector Strategies, Ken Serini and Serini and Associates, David Goldstein, aforementioned from Sir Tillman Ballin, and Danette O'Connell was one of the original founders of this organization as well. So it's a free organization for nonprofits to be a part of. I don't want to take too much more time on it now, but you can reach out to Christina or I if you have any questions, or just go to nonprofitresourcehub.org to get more information. We'll leave that one there. So it is Sue's turn, and then Carl. Berry Dallas is what I'm going to say, because you tricked me with that whole name before. So we'll go to Sue and then Carl.
Okay. Hi, good morning. I am the donor relations person here at Options for Community Living, which we provide housing and supportive services for over 2,400 clients each year. And I've been here just a little under a year, and we were lucky enough to get a donation just recently of enough money to purchase a new house, which will give us over 150 houses, which is wonderful in Nassau and Suffolk County. We are in the process of doing an adopt a family drive and also a toy drive. So if anybody's looking to participate, or you have an organization that would like to help us out, just give me a call. And if you have any questions, and we're looking forward to Tommy doing a day of service next week with us.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning it, for sure. Yeah. Next week I'll be planting shrubs out in Huntington. It'll be, if things work out with the numbers, it'll be day number 19 of 60 days of service. If you are so inclined and are near Suffolk County, John Dibiase just volunteered early. He really did. I didn't volunteer him just now. He said it before we started this recording, but John will be joining me. If you want to join me, plant some shrubs at one of the group homes, send me a note in the chat, and or just, send me an email, Tommy.
It's really nice because even sprucing up these houses for the individuals, I mean, the house inside is always taken care of, but it is a difficult thing for them to purchase some of these items and have them planted. So it just makes them feel like it's more of their home again.
Yeah, special. I'm glad to be part of it. It was supposed to be Tuesday, but then there was a whole bunch of rain, so it didn't happen. But I understand I get a purple shirt out of the deal too, so that
I will find you a shirt, but it probably might not be purple, but we'll get you a shirt.
I like shirts. All right, so that is 60 days of service, and that's something I'm working on. Maybe we'll talk about it later. Carl, let's go to Carl, and then Amy Fischer, please.
Hi, my name's Carl Berry. I am founder of a freshman nonprofit here in Dallas called the Community Care Resource Council. And what we do is we're a referral service, a connector. I work alongside of governments, both state and federal, all faith-based organizations, and anything that is basically healthcare. And what we do is through providing audio video content, we find resources and we share those resources and introduce those resources to each other. We have already a international platform. We've got some kids that are orphaned and trafficked in Africa. We work with Critical Dialogue out of India that deals with tough conversations, one of which is Women's Empowerment is a program we've got going on right now. I've got a program on incarceration coming up in March in conjunction with the Department of Health and Human Services. And I am blessed to be in the presence of such esteemed people.
Well, we certainly feel the same way, Carl. Anybody who's making an impact in those communities, specifically, as I said to you earlier, around mental health is a friend of mine. But as I'm hearing you speak, and I just heard April make her introduction with that international angle, and you're talking international, I mean, we got to connect the dots. So you all should, get a Zoom call going and connect. So let's go to Amy Fischer. Amy, it was so great seeing you at Horseability the other day. So thanks for being there. And then Sean Sullivan, who is also at Horseability with us. So Amy and then Sean.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Amy Fischer. I am the development officer at Long Island Select Healthcare. We are a health center, a federally qualified health center, which means we treat the underserved. So we turn no one away. Currently, we have 3 locations open, Central Islip, Riverhead, and Hop Hog. Our primary population is the IDD population because we were founded by free UCP and DDI 5 years ago. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary. Tommy was in attendance. We have 20 specialties, dental, everything. So it's just, we turn no one away. We treat the IDD, but we also work with any underserved, meaning undocumented, homeless. So we have a sliding scale. We have separate registration forms for undocumented, so we don't ask them questions that would make them uncomfortable. But really a great place. I'm going to put some video links up on the shared chat to watch it, get a little bit, know a little bit about us. But if you need anything, again, anybody that needs any type of care, just reach out to me and we'll get them set up.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. And thanks for all you do. And I mentioned earlier, Amy used to tell us when there was vaccines available. So that was something that was relevant to our community because we could share that information out. Sean, and then Roberta, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Sean Sullivan. I'm the founder and executive director of Swim Strong Foundation. We are a 501c3 here in New York City, and our mission is to reduce unintended drowning and water-based accidents. And we do that in the traditional way of giving swim lessons from Learn to Swim. We have adaptive programs as well, up through very competitive swimmers. We're known for our stroke mechanics work, and so we attract competitive swimmers to it from youth to seniors, actually. So that's our in-water work, of which we have been prevented to do because of COVID. And our focus now is on our school-based work called KNOW, K-N-O-W, Before You Go, which is a program that looks at the environment around water. So we are trying to help people, whether you swim or don't swim, understand that our world is changing very rapidly around us and becoming much more watery. Our water levels have been rising 1 inch to 1.5 inches for the last 12 years. Our tropical storms and hurricanes have been increasing not only in strength, but in numbers. You know, here in the New York area, between New York and New Jersey, just a couple of weeks ago, Tropical Storm Ida, we lost almost 50 people due to that storm. In my own community, 13 died in their basements. They drowned in their basements. If they had taken our program, that never would have happened. So we are focused to helping everybody understand that we need to know water very differently, to develop a different relationship with water so that we can be safe, successful, and navigated in the future. Within 50 years, God knows what our relationship will be to water. I can't even imagine it, but that's what we do. And I'll put a little information in the chat. Lovely to be with you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for being here. And thanks for being part of the community for certain. We'll go to Roberta, and then after Roberta, Mindy.
Okay. Good morning, all. Happy to finally get in. I was unable to do so. Before I say anything about me, I'd like to say a big congratulations to Melissa Greenberger, and to say to everybody how wonderful, for anybody who doesn't know her, how wonderful she was in helping us start our nonprofit. And the organization is their loss, but the organization she's going to, lucky to them for getting her. So Melissa, I wish you only the best. I'm sure you will be great at whatever you're doing. So
thank you so much.
Thank you for that opportunity. Nice to be able to tell the public about it, because you were so wonderful for all my crazies, and I'm still crazy, but you helped me so much, and the organization. So thank you. So I'm Roberta Rosenberg, the founder of Destination Accessible. We are a nonprofit whose mission is to enrich the lives of people with mobility challenges. We believe that everybody deserves to have fun, and everybody deserves to have the best time when they're going out for fun. And so we are a resource that provides firsthand accessibility information of places people go for fun. Restaurants, parks, theaters, museums, kid-friendly places, bowling alleys, any place you're going out to have a good time, you can go to our website and find out exactly what it's going to be like for accessibility, so that you can save the heartache or uncomfortableness of getting to some place and finding out that what they told you on the phone was not necessarily correct. It's not that they are being mean, but if you don't need it, for the most part, you don't know about it. And so our goal is to help people have a great time.
Thank you, Roberta. Thanks for being here, and thanks for what you do, because you know, having family members you know, who are in wheelchairs, I've become more aware of noticing, and also knowing you, I've become more aware to look out for these things when I go places. So so thanks for what you do. Let's go to Mindy, and after that we'll have Mick Collins introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. And I'm Mindy Lund, and I work at Pro Bono Partnership with Melissa Greenberger for a moment longer. And I totally agree with Roberta. Melissa's amazing. It is the partnership's loss, but I do want to just reiterate what Melissa said. She did all the hard work already in telling you about upcoming webinars and things, but reiterate the partnership's commitment to Long Island nonprofits. It's our mission to make nonprofits stronger, build capacity by providing a solid legal foundation. And Melissa is amazingly talented, and we promise not to drop that ball. So if anyone has any legal needs, you can, like Melissa mentioned, contact Maurice Siegel. I handle the marketing and communications for Pro Bono Partnerships. So I am one of the few people that doesn't give legal advice, but I work with a lot of lawyers. So sometimes I can like fake it. I'm kidding, Melissa, I'm kidding. Anyway, so we recently celebrated our 24th anniversary with a virtual gala, which you can, I'll add a link to some highlights from that event, but we have amazing volunteer lawyers who enable us to do our work with nonprofits. And we have amazing clients that you would also see in the video if you choose to watch highlights from it. But it was a successful virtual event, which we're really proud of. And then we are launching straight into our 25th anniversary year, which will be next year. And hopefully you've signed up for news and events from us, and you will hear more about that to come.
Thank you, Mindy. Thanks for being part of our community. We'll go to Mick. And then I have a couple folks I want to say hello. I'm just not sure from the technology standpoint. Just let me know, Ian and Alexandra, if you can just let me know in the chat or just pop on your video and I'll know you're good. So Mick, introduce yourself, and then I will attempt to have Ian. Oh, Alexandra's giving me a thumbs up. So Ian just took himself off mute. Way to go, gang. Mick, Ian, Alexandra. Let's do it.
Thanks, Tommy. So, Mick Collins with Pay It Forward Processing. We are credit card processing with a twist. We start with a guarantee to match or reduce rates with no contract or termination fees and great customer support. It's all about being honest and transparent and fair with business owners. The twist we offer is donating our net proceeds to charity. Over $411,000 donated nationally since 2013. Payment processing doesn't have to hurt a business, and we're out to prove that it can also do good. Every swipe benefits charity.
Thank you, Mick. Let's go to Ian Wilder and then Alexandra Stella.
Hi, Tommy. Thanks. I'm not on video because I'm actually mobile. Thank you for inviting me to the event to honor Melissa Greenberger. I can speak from both perspectives. We've done a lot of work with the Pro Bono project, and they are absolutely amazing. But I was actually lucky enough to work with Melissa at the job prior to that. So I can tell you that she's not only was wonderful in that position, but she's just wonderful. Anyway, my agency is Long Island Housing.
Ian. Thank you.
Well, Melissa knows I love her. So my agency is Long Island Housing Services. We are an over half-century-old civil rights organization focused on fair housing. Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you, Ian. I appreciate you. Alexandra, take it away. Please introduce yourself. Be safe, by the way, too.
I have the co-pilot, so I'm trying the best I can to multitask. Good morning.
Look at the road.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I'm Alexandra Stella. I do a little bit of everything over at Palamine Equestrian in Islandia. We are a therapeutic equine program. We offer adaptive horseback riding. We do group programs, dementia program, virtual, veterans, really a little bit of everything. Like I said, I'm a social worker by background in education, but I do take on a lot of the grant writing, fundraising, social media. We've done Facebook Lives throughout the pandemic. Intake process, so a little bit of everything really over there. I guess that's kind of our place in a nutshell.
Well, thank you for being here. I have had the opportunity to visit Palamine, and actually we put together a networking event like this a whole bunch of years back. I mean, it's got to be 4 years ago at this point. We had a gang of us nonprofits get out there. I use that word gang as a loving thing. All right, so it doesn't mean like a bunch of tough guys, walking down the street. All right, let's try to get to what we're here. Thanks, Alexandra. Be safe, please. All right, so raise your hand if you didn't get a chance to speak yet. I don't think I missed anybody. I think we're good. There's one person who hasn't had a chance to speak, who's going to be speaking a whole bunch today, which is good because my voice needs a break. So what can I say? I don't want to embarrass her too much. I don't want her to get all mushy and emotional, but I have a lot of projects I'm on. I have a lot of things that I work on. And I have a lot of teammates. And I think when you think in terms of team, it's about picking each other up where the other person or the other teammates are not as strong. And I think it's important to have self-awareness and know what you're really freaking good at. My wife tells me I got to stop saying freaking all the time, but what you're really freaking good at, and have people around you that are good at the other things. So there's that countering of ideas and strategies. A friend of mine recently said, it's not that you want to be surrounded by like-minded people, because if you were surrounded by like-minded people, then you'd all have the same ideas. There'd be less challenge. It's that you want to be surrounded by like-valued people. right? Isn't that interesting? So think about that, take that with you. Now I'm going to read a bio on somebody who is a very good friend of mine. I learned so much from her. I'm thrilled to be collaborating with Christine, and now I let the cat out of the bag. It's Christine Deska, in case you didn't know. So I'm thrilled to have this opportunity, and I think it was a bit of a push. And I said, we really need to just let you do a meeting and like show your smarts and bring your thought leadership. And I'm psyched that this morning is the day we're going to do it. So Christine Deska is the co-founder of Nonprofit Sector Strategies, which is a public benefit corporation dedicated to helping nonprofits maximize mission impact. Nonprofit Sector Strategies provide strategic planning and board management services to small and medium-sized nonprofit organizations. They also created Bell's Board, which is a board management software platform and a mobile app that helps nonprofit boards become more efficient. So if you either sit on a board or you know, or you lead an organization and you know all the documents and things and notes and dates and this and that you send out to your board, wouldn't it be awesome to have them all in one place? And that's what Christine and her partner, who many of you know, Frank Orzo, created. Christine brings more than a decade of in-depth experience working in the sector with organizations, foundations, and as well as government. At the Columbus Citizens Foundation, she was the director of programs from 2014 through 2016. And prior to that, she was with AARP from 2006 to 2014, where she led initiatives around older adult hunger, financial security, and volunteer management. And she often served as the organization's spokesperson, media spokesperson. She created several scalable models at AARP, including a successful member discount and engagement model. And she currently has a number of outside the business interests. And I'll tell you, she sits on the board of Hunger Solutions for New York, Hunger Solutions New York, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the alleviation of hunger throughout New York State. And she is also our president of the Nonprofit Resource Hub, which we mentioned, and she shared in the chat. And if you have questions about that, you can reach out to Christine or I. But Christine, I appreciate you. I appreciate friendship. I appreciate what I've learned and what you do for this sector every day. This is about you. Take it away.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Wonderful. Okay, the first part of this meeting, I was pushing one kid in a stroller, dropping another one off. It was just so lovely hearing everyone introduce themselves and to finally be able to talk about one of my favorite topics, strategic planning, after all this time. This started over 3 years ago, and I think we did our first session with 5 folks in a room talking about social return on investment, my other favorite topic. And now here we are gathered, and so many connections have been made. The collaboration I was hearing about with Amy Zaslansky, and I already shed my tears about Melissa leaving, but I know she'll still be in our family. So we'll still be able to track her down. And now we can call ourselves an international roundtable family with my friend from high school, April, joining us, which is so cool. And that came through our high school Facebook group, which, was so kind to plug our roundtable family. So it's so great because we've got like a smaller group on today than usual, but so many folks reach out and ask for the recordings. So we're just so grateful to be sharing this good information. So without further ado, strategic planning, right? Something hopefully you all know is important, and that's why you're here today. But let me just start with a show of hands for the people who are on video. How many of you would say your organization has an active strategic plan? Okay. Yeah, the keyword being active, it's really hard. And that's one of the things I think that we find with a lot of the clients we work with or organizations that kind of are always asking us for guidance here and there, and then some of the board work that we do. It's challenging to keep that plan active. And I'm going to start off with a little deck. Let me share my screen here. And this will take about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll open it up to some conversation, and feel free to put your questions in the chat. We wanted this to be an Ask Her Anything. We're stealing that from Reddit. For those of you who know the AMA, Ask Me Anything that they've always done with folks like former President Obama and such. Those are pretty cool. So we're trying to be like Reddit. But Ask Her Anything, I think, is a little bit even better, right? So strategic planning, why it needs to happen, right? I hear a lot from smaller organizations that it's too hard to kind of pull it together, prioritize, make the time for this. But by not making the time for this, I would argue that you're putting your organization at risk. You're putting kind of the future success of your organization at risk. And we're going to kind of talk about why this is just so important. So if there was one thing I want you to take away from this, because I know we are all multitasking, and as Tommy encouraged earlier, please interact in the chat and get your stuff done. But just please remember, smart strategic planning is vital for sustainability and success. And I'm going to end with this slide as well, because I cannot emphasize this enough. And now I'm going to jump into the key components. I'm going to talk for a minute or so about each one of these. This is kind of going to be the bulk of how we set the stage for this. So key components for effective planning. Okay, I'll start with stakeholder involvement. A lot of times when we work with organizations, we ask, who's in your universe, right? Who have you been partnering with? Who do you want to partner with? And we'll do kind of a little informal or sometimes formal outreach to those organizations and ask them what their perception is of your organization. And from that, we learn quite a bit. We'll sometimes do a listening session, or we'll even have a roundtable on an issue. If it's a particular issue you work on, for example, when I worked on older adult hunger, we would bring all kinds of organizations together in a coalition format and just kind of talk and find out and share information. And so this stakeholder involvement can be an effective part of your planning process, especially at the onset. Next up, I'm sure if I can't see everybody's faces right now, but how many of you have participated in a SWOT analysis before? Some people have, some people haven't. So this is really important. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? This is a brainstorm where you want all the right minds in the room. And that's another kind of key piece to think about as you're starting your planning process. Your stakeholders we mentioned, those can be internal as well, right? So we're talking about your leadership team. We're talking about key managers in your organization, key volunteers. If you're a small organization that heavily relies on volunteers, it could be your key board members. Some organizations say, do I really want my board involved? Well, I would strongly suggest, if you don't have a subset of your board that you would want involved in your strategic planning process, you probably need to reevaluate the board you have. You should at least want a few folks. It could be a self-selection process, but having that kind of strategic planning subcommittee is how we usually format it from the beginning. If we have a say in the beginning, sometimes our clients say absolutely not, and we will work with you however it is your organization needs to do this. And some boards truly aren't right for this. Some boards don't have the background to maybe serve, but even a mindset that's completely different from your organization and knowing the intricacies of your mission can be helpful. So a SWOT analysis is really, really interesting because it brings to light, what threats is your organization facing, right? Are there reasons why your organization might not be so relevant in a couple of years? How is the landscape changing where you serve? And then what are these big opportunities that have just been kind of sitting on a shelf somewhere? Oh, we want to do that one day. Well, is that feasible? This is the conversation where you get it all down on paper, get it all out. No, there's the no wrong door, no wrong answer kind of session. That can be really inspiring. And then we work from there. And so from there, key piece, of course, of your strategic plan should be, what are your mission, vision, and values? Revisiting your organization and why it exists. Why are you serving the people you serve, or the animals, or the environment, or maybe all of the above? And is your mission still accurate? Does it need to be broadened in scope to really make sure you're operating legally, as Melissa and I've talked about in the past? Have you gone outside of that mission for a reason, and do you need to adapt it because of that, or is it still true to who you are? And then, of course, the vision and values. Really making sure you're recommitting to those pieces through your planning process. Next up, key growth areas. So this really kind of grows out of your opportunities piece of the SWOT analysis. Where are those places your organization can really lean into growth? Is there a program where you've been kind of growing organically without even doing any outreach because there's a need there? And has that been tapped into? And how can more funding be accessed to grow that program? Or is there a capital campaign that hasn't been kind of launched, where you have some support that you could tap into there to really execute on some physical parts of your operation? So this ends up being a really in-depth part of the planning process, talking about these key growth areas. What we do when we work with organizations is we come up with facilitation frameworks to really kind of put our arms around how we can kind of standardize these conversations. And that way, when we go back to actually putting the plan on paper, it really zeroes in on why these are the key growth areas and why it's so important that those get attention over the next couple of years. And that ties into the strategic goals, really setting goals related to those key growth areas. So whether it's a number of folks served, number of dollars raised, diversifying your board in a certain way, a number of items, but really getting those goals down on paper. And I might be getting ahead of myself, and people often ask, well, how far out should we set our goals? And this kind of ebbs and flows in sort of trends. Do we only plan for a year because so much is changing? Our standard response there, what we think is the best practice from everything we've learned and seen, is to really try to map out your 1, 2, and 3 year goals. And then from there, we always encourage organizations to spend the time doing some visioning. We do 5 and 10 year visioning conversations. Now we know that the world is going to change quite a bit, and we always get the joke from some leadership, well, I'll be on the beach in 10 years. Don't know where y'all will be, But that said, there are reasons why companies exist now that are kind of monopolizing the scene that weren't around 10 years ago and so forth. So you don't want your organization to be one that for whatever reason is not going to exist in 10 years because you weren't thinking ahead. You weren't thinking about AI and the different ways that could impact your organization. You weren't thinking about how supply chain could impact what you need to know about, your mission and delivering on that. So with strategic goals, the 1, 2, and 3 year, I think, are the most important, but the visioning piece truly is almost just as important. In terms of a budget, don't put your plan together without including some dollars attached to it. It's really hard, I know, to plan out long-term when it comes to budgeting for a lot of organizations, but at least get that 1 year budget down and include that in your plan, and then revisit it each year and update that budget to make sure that your goals actually have dollars to support them or a plan to get there. The last thing you want is to become discouraged because the goals have been set that don't really align with the funds that are available. And the last 2 items, this goes hand in hand with social return on investment and a lot of what we work on there, metrics, right? Make sure your goals are tied to specific metrics, because without that, you can't put that beautiful infographic that Sean has behind her. I love that. We talk a lot about not only setting metrics, but conveying those metrics in an effective way, right? What good is it if your audience isn't even getting the message of what you achieved? And so ensuring that you set metrics and then the ongoing monitoring piece. So we often create what we call strategic plan report cards for organizations. So once we finish up that plan, here's a way where quarterly or every 6 months, you can fill in those metrics and adapt as you go, right? We know things are going to change, but hopefully there's a place where you can say, we set this goal, it's not applicable for whatever reason, that's fine, but at least we're still checking in quarterly or every 6 months on those goals and making sure the monitoring is happening. Because I don't think there's a nonprofit staffer I've ever talked to who said they haven't heard about or haven't seen a plan that's just sitting on the shelf because it was, time was invested in it, but then for whatever reason it languished because it wasn't kept up to date and that monitoring piece wasn't followed through on. So sometimes we'll do that with our clients and we'll check in quarterly and we'll be in touch with the team, the point persons for those goals. And other times we give that report card over and check in periodically, but just to really make sure that the organizations are armed with the information to not let the plan sit on the shelf, to make it that active plan. So what's the foundation, right? If those of you are on and you're not the executive director, if you're not the CEO, if you have one at your organization, it can be frustrating, right? Because you need that top down, that buy-in of your leadership to really execute this. I've seen leaders become convinced after hearing of other successes and seeing how others in their industry have kind of surpassed because they've planned ahead. And so I just want to point out that for an effective planning process, you do need that commitment. You do need the trust. When you think of a proper planning process, it's anywhere from 3 months to 9 months, because it's not only planning and getting the plan completed, it's also team building. it's all the things that your team should be coming together on, right? This is collective goal setting. And when you come together and set collective goals, you become so much stronger as a team. And that goes a long way in and of itself. And you build trust and relationships. And I think that's going to get us into when we talk about DEI in a minute as well. But so our methodology briefly is, let's talk about the business case. Why are we doing what we do? What is the approach, right? This is how we kind of check in on all of the different goals that are set. Those deliverables, key performance indicators, that's going back to metrics. And then of course, because everything we do is mission driven, is the social return on investment piece and all the components that come into play when you really want to make sure that the work you're doing, you can point to. I used to always be able to say, you know, for every dollar that we were able to help someone get access to in supplemental nutrition benefits, X number of dollars is now reaching that community. And what a powerful thing that is to say for especially communities in need, which is where we did the majority of our work. So the importance of DEI, right? So I don't know how many of you have focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion in your work, but this is becoming something where you can't not focus on it in whatever context that means for your organization. We work pretty closely with the disability rights organization, and for them, that's really making sure that people with disabilities are included in every DEI conversation and where that intersection takes place. But it's everything. It's making sure your board has representation. Does your staff feel supported? Are you asking the right questions? And so I mentioned that this would come back into play with relationship building, but I think it was so we're facilitating some DEI work right now. And I think someone said on a recent meeting, you can't be prejudiced against someone you know. You know, once you get to know someone, it's hard to kind of hold any sort of beliefs that you may have had before if you're lumping that person into a particular category. So the more you can come together and work as a team, which is what a strategic planning process does, it kind of, without even intending to, you begin to break down barriers and you begin to learn more about your organizational culture and what might need to be tweaked, what might need to be addressed. Larger organizations will do DEI strategic planning, a whole separate body of work, because it's that important to make sure that you're being inclusive. And that starts before someone even finds your organization. It starts with, how are you marketing yourself? How are you advertising? We recently worked with an organization who let us know just by zip code, they can tell by targeting by zip code with job, or this was actually for a school, so this is for admissions, they were able to diversify their applicant pool because the previous marketing wasn't reaching the zip codes it should have been. And so a whole swath of people, highly qualified, were getting missed. And so it can be a small tweak like that that could make all of the difference when it comes to really being able to diversify. So I think we said in our pitch that we would help with a roadmap. And so for everyone who registered, we're going to send around a template roadmap to help you get started or just to complement your process. So a roadmap is something that we put together for every client we work with. And essentially it is a good old fashioned Word document that starts at a particular time. You set your dates and times, you set your meeting agendas, you have your tasks and point persons. And so what that means is, I'll stop there. It's really important that my cousin who has 4 kids always says, a shared responsibility is no responsibility. You don't put 2 people in charge of your 4 kids because one of them might say, oh, I thought so-and-so, and all, who knows what happens, right? Anyone with small kids knows it doesn't take long. So same thing with the strategic planning process. If there's a particular goal that is set, you want to have ideally 1 point person responsible for shepherding that goal along, right? And we as consultants partner with organizations to ensure that the progress is made, but that point person on a leadership team usually, or a manager, the responsibility lies with them, and that facilitation framework supports the the details of what needs to happen to begin to achieve that goal over time. But that's all in the framework, and there's placeholders in the beginning. It's not all figured out, but what it does is it sets you on this path as a team to get from You say you're starting your process, what are we in November almost? November, and you're going to launch in June, right? If your fiscal year is July 1. You're able to kind of see what are we really able to take on as an organization? Because the last thing you also want to do is set so many goals where you become frustrated because it was too much for your organization to take on in a particular year. It's good to be ambitious, but it's also good to be realistic about goal setting. And so, of course, setting yourself up for hopefully, unanimous board approval, and then launching your plan. And we know this isn't always cookie cutter. A lot of times you're already working on half the stuff that goes into your plan as you're documenting it. But again, coming together to set those collective goals is really, really important. So again, if there was one thing, smart strategic planning is vital for sustainability and success. I'll just say that my aunt is a kind of a nationally renowned speaker, and she put on LinkedIn this week that people retain 10% of every presentation. And I went, oh man, well, this is a short one, but hopefully people come away with 10%. And then she said it has to be distilled into one sentence. So this is my one sentence that I'll leave up here. And then we can open it up for some questions. So let me see, I see something in the chat, and Tommy, I don't know if you've been monitoring or what I'm missing, but any questions, guys?
Yeah, so Christine, first of all, great job. Alliteration is my favorite grammatical tool. So the fact that you used all those S's there in your opening and final thought, I love that. That's why I spell focus, PHOCUS, like philanthropy. I don't know if you guys know that that's what I do. So, so I love that. Really, really well done. Obviously, you have all this knowledge to share. What there are some initial questions, but I want to open it up to the group before I ask a question or two. So by all means, gang, just come off of mute, raise your hand, just start talking however you want to handle it. We are flexible to that. So go ahead, take it away before I get taking it away, guys.
I'll stop sharing so I can see everybody. There we go.
All right. So, April.
I have a question. Hi, Christine. I'm so happy to see you. It's been a very long time.
You too.
So my biggest question is we're attached to an organization that has been a nonprofit out of Ecuador for 30 years, but we are brand new. We're still in the 501c3 application status. It's pending. So trying to plan a strategic plan with really zero budget, zero anything right now. I have 3 board members, and we're trying to get started. How would you recommend kind of starting that strategic planning process?
Great question. I mean, I think yours might end up being more focused on your development strategy, right? Because so much of it is going to tie into what will your budget look like. So your SWOT analysis, you can at any point, you can have a SWOT analysis conversation, and you put that big grid together, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And so when it comes to your fundraising in particular, you might want to have a brainstorm about where are we headed with fundraising? What are our projections? Right? Is that documented yet? Because that will lead you into what goals can you really set. You can start to kind of put your goals down on paper, but I don't think you can really get to your projected time frame of achieving those goals until you have a better sense of your funding and your partners. So I think the SWOT's always a great place to start. It is hard to start your planning process formally until you're incorporated and until you really have some sense of your budget. But hopefully that's not too far off. I mean, it sounds like you guys are in a really exciting place. I'm so impressed to hear about the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Yes, we got the articles of incorporation, but we were working with another nonprofit that was kind of helping us build the 501c3. And then unfortunately, he passed away of cancer not too long ago. So our process kind of got halted, and I alone and my husband are trying to get this all going. And we just have no idea really where to start, which is where you guys come in.
Yeah, and I would also say that, aside from dollars, a lot of organizations are fully volunteer run, right? So what can you begin to achieve with a core of volunteers if that's going to be part of your model? It doesn't just have to be related to dollars, but unfortunately, right, resources do need to be attached to most items to really make progress. But a lot can also be accomplished in other creative ways, like partnering. And it sounds like the company you're attached to is going to be a key piece in you all having more of an impact right from the start.
So I want to, Sean has a question, but I want to just stay on this one point, Sean. So just hang tight for me if you could. But what you just talked about there, I think is relevant, Christine, to a lot of organizations around my favorite words, strategic alliances or partnerships. If you want to just, we have a great session that we can get all you guys that Ken Serini, our friend, did. But Christine, if you want to speak just briefly about that alignment between whether it be nonprofit and nonprofit or nonprofit and for-profit partner, if you could speak to that a bit.
Sure. I mean, I think, you know, this topic of quote unquote nonprofit competition tends to be a misnomer in many senses. Most of the nonprofits that I know and work with want to partner. They want to have meetings, and we actually do this for a client where we're going through to have 30 different introductory meetings to see where synergies lie, to see where partnerships can be formed, and then see what could grow from that with certain goals in mind, right? With a menu of offerings. So I guess I would just encourage, and what we talk about in that meeting is it's the WIFM, it's the what's in it for me, but the other side of it. So going into a meeting, what can you offer to a partner organization? Whether it's your knowledge, you know, your access to a network, or it could be dollars, but remaining open and making the time for introductory meetings with little agenda other than here's our menu of offerings, what do you offer, and seeing what results from that. And that could be from our really great session you mentioned with Ken. I think it was our last one before the world shut down, maybe.
It was. Is that options for community living? Yeah. It was February of 20.
45 people in the room. Was great. That could be an informal partnership. It could be a proper legal strategic alliance that pro bono could help folks with. It could also be a merger that occurs. You don't know where these conversations are going. It could be taking in a program in your organization that someone else is already been running. So there are so many things that can result from that. So it's key to just, it's as stretched as you are for time and capacity, try to always make time for those potential partnership talks.
So Christine, we have a lot of questions coming in. So let's go to Sean and then Tanya and then Mick. And I think Sue just raised her hand too. So Sean, take it away and then we'll go to Tanya.
Thank you. Christine, good to see you again. Thanks for this presentation. Several things struck me as you were speaking, and the first one was about making it alive, a living plan as opposed to something that sits up on a shelf. We are very small. We're tiny but mighty. Our results belie our size. We're a volunteer-based organization. I am the only staff member, and we have anywhere from 35 to 70 volunteers working to move the mission forward in or out of the water. The reason that we like a looser plan rather than a stricter plan is it allows us the flexibility to pivot when we need to see what's coming up and try to jump on that opportunity. The other thing is that, you know, COVID, for example, was for me a reminder of that old expression, don't let a good crisis go to waste. Because during that time, we were out of the water. It was my opportunity to go back to the original Know Before You Go program, which is what I brought into schools myself, a little PowerPoint presentation that I would deliver in schools, and actually then hire a curriculum writer who worked with me to transform this into a much richer, deeper, more rigorous program that truly can be referred to as a curriculum for schools, an entirely different program that has even been updated with information that speaks to the subject from a seasonality point of view, which we had never done before. So we are continuing to grow out what we are trying to teach in our as part of our mission. And then the other piece that you mentioned in terms of developing those alliances, so critical. And I again learned through the COVID situation that I can trust others. I was always a little reluctant, kind of going it alone because I had some negative experiences in the past. But it was through my long-term relationship with Surfrider, for example, that allowed us to develop a coalition in the Rockaways that is already addressing water safety for a community that suffers anywhere from a dozen drowning rates, annually to 15 drowning rates annually. And in that, part of that is what I just put in the chat, this little bit.ly that requests New Yorkers to join us for the support of the legislation that I actually initiated. Who knew? Who knew? Right? To never thought of doing this. I'm not a political person. Never thought of trying to get legislation passed. But here it is. Legislation in both our Assembly and our Senate to mandate water safety training in all of our state schools, because if it doesn't get mandated, it doesn't get done, right? And it's too important in terms of what we're facing now and knowing what's coming in the future that we don't get this done. So for so many reasons, what you've touched upon really does ring true and very practical. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Sean. Two things that you reminded me of. Adapting your plan. Just because you put it down on paper, could any of us have predicted a pandemic was going to shut the world down? No, but that's just one example of how things change, circumstances change. So don't be afraid to adapt your plan. It's just a matter of keeping your board informed. And when you meet as a committee, even after your planning process is finished, you should still be checking in quarterly as a committee and revisiting your plan. It doesn't have to be lengthy meetings, but just noting how things evolve. And then presenting that to your board at the right time. And then secondly, the advocacy piece. You may say, I'm not an advocacy organization. Well, guess what? We all should be in some way. We all have something to advocate for. You don't need to necessarily be at your state legislature or in Congress, but there are all kinds of ways that advocacy should really be a part of every organization's mission. I know that's hard with some capacity constraints, but it really is important. So kudos to you, Sean, for leaning into that and your program expansion during the pandemic. Crisis breeds opportunity sometimes.
Christine, let's just move on to Tanya had a question, and then Mick, we have something in the chat, so I'll just read it out or you can take a look at it. So Tanya, take it away.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I have a nonprofit that's very, very, very small, and it's very unique, and we do not fit into the typical grants and the typical partnering with companies. We struggle because of what we do. We're not a rescue. We're not a rescue or a shelter. What we do is with wheelchairs and prosthetics. We don't slide into partnering with like the typical companies, and we are really struggling with getting funding, in continuous funding, monthly or anything like that. Do you have any ideas about how to navigate that?
Well, it's tough. I would say, so while it's not competition, there has to be organizations serving a similar audience to you. So how can you tap into those organizations, whether it's through social media, through other means, to begin having some potential, even if it's not someone who you could actually partner with for whatever reason? These are organizations, leaders who you should probably be in contact with to find out how they're tapping into funds for their organization. Is there a particular private funding strategy that's worked for another organization in another geographic area? Are you constrained by geography with your mission, or do you have a certain
it's all
service area?
All over the world.
All over the world?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have done. It's amazing of where we've gone. I can tell you that.
Well, so if funding is the main challenge, right? I can definitely connect with you after this with a few different fundraising consultants specifically just to talk strategy. Most of the folks that we work with offer that 30 minutes free brainstorming specifically about development and really working on targeting. It really depends on what sort of message you're putting out. Like what is it that you're using to get folks' attention to drive funds? And then this comes into Sherry, who I see here with PR. for larger organizations, but really what's that message and how are you getting the attention of not only the audience you're serving, but your potential funders. So why don't we connect offline so that we can talk more specifically about who you could maybe be meeting and learning from, whether they're your direct competition,
Right.
or just, tangentially doing similar work in the area of prosthetics in general, right? There are a lot of nonprofits doing different things, and who are they leaning on, right? I think we can probably glean from that and then start to put together a development strategy.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question.
I'm going to put Christine's email in the chat box for y'all. And I don't know why I said y'all, but I did. So
Probably because I did earlier.
I don't know where that's coming from. I'm a Long Island dude. I don't even know what I'm saying here. So I want to go to Mick's question. And then I realized, oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't Mick. It was Mindy. I just saw the MI and I read the wrong thing. But hey, Mick, it's Mindy Lund's question. How do you recommend sharing the strategic plan with your entire organization? So how do you do a rollout? Mindy, if you want to come off mute and go even further with this, do you share only top line or more detail? So how do you conversate this throughout an organization, and how do you socialize that, I guess is the question. Mindy, if there's more there. That's it? We got it?
That is such a great question, Mindy. And that is something that in my short deck today, I didn't touch on. But right, what good is the plan if the entirety of your organization's buy-in isn't there? So typically a strong infographic with the 6 key growth areas is a great way to convey something like that. I don't think, it depends on how large your staff is as well. When I worked in the AARP New York office, there were 25 of us staff. That's it. We had like over 2,000 volunteers, but only 25 staff. So it was important for all the staff to know the plan pretty intricately. But if you've got layers of staff, I think you do it out at wait, Mindy, oh no, you're not at Options, but a group like Options that might have a lot of different staff in the field doing different things. Not every person needs to know those intricacies, but having your team as a whole, you've got a few hundred people doing the work, knowing this is where the organization is going with the key goals, knowing what that mission really means, can really help with productivity. And hopefully in some way you're having an all staff Zoom, right? Or an all staff gathering of some kind where you have your leader, again, going back to that leader and leading the charge, right? With these goals, kind of going through, an inspirational talk about here's the growth potential for this organization and where we're headed. So not the entire plan, I would say, because those can get pretty lengthy. Most of the ones we work on end up being like 30 to 50 pages because it's a lot of information. So just the top line goals would be my recommendation. Does that help, Mindy?
Yeah, it does. Great. Thanks so much. The infographic is a good idea to get it visually.
Thank you, Mindy. Thank you, Christine. I have some questions I can go to unless anybody, hey, Ian, I see your face now, Ian. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask, or I can pump on in real quick? So Christine, we're still working virtually. All of us say that, organizationally. So we're in this kind of like, are we going to all be back in an office someday? Are we not? Should we start a plan, or should we just wait and see when we all get back together? And, I'm worried about, I'm reading a question Christine gave to me, guys. So I'm trying to make it very dramatic. Like I made this question up, but I'm worried about engagement and burnout and effectiveness of this, scenario. Should we honestly, should we get involved with doing this now, or should we just push it off and deal with it later? That's the question.
You did great with that, Tommy. And you really wouldn't want to hear me interview myself, guys, would you? But I put that in there, right? Because I feel like this is something we're hearing a lot. It's not easy to do this stuff virtually. There's nothing like getting in a room and putting those Post-its on the wall and brainstorming and writing and putting, little, gold stars next to
markers, right? Markers and the big stickies and all that stuff. Yeah.
All the fun things. I love facilitating those kind of meetings, but there are ways to replicate that virtually. There's some really cool technology out there that can make it really fun. In the breakout rooms, right, that we've all probably been dropped into on Zoom. So I would say, don't wait to set your collective goals, unless there are other reasons why you should wait, but don't let the virtual nature of things stop you from from planning in this way. There are ways to make it work, and I can share some of those offline if folks are, you know, concerned about engagement. In terms of burnout, though, that's a big issue. Yeah, that's right, Mick. Plan with contingencies, right? Burnout's big, right? If your staff is already so stretched and then you're adding a lot of planning meetings on top of what's already on their plates, that can be hard. So that goes back to the leadership making it a priority. This shouldn't be, you know, in to use the word again, competition with the work in the field. It's hard to create that balance, but it really does lead to more work getting done in the field when you have your collective goals down on paper. So it's always that balancing act. So I did want to mention that.
Christine, you'll be sharing out some different resources. You mentioned a template as well. I'm actually in this course right now, which I didn't mention earlier. I'm in this cohort with the Institute for Nonprofit Practice, and DEI, and now they've shared with us, it's not just diversity, equity, inclusion, but it's also belonging. So, and I think in a lot of organizations, we see boards who are not very diverse. So, and who are, and Vicky's going to beat me up for this one. It's not I'm not being an ageist, but a lot of boards are aging. And my question to you is, how do we either attract and or become attractive to younger people to join our boards and be involved, whether it's board or not? Board is just piece of it. Volunteering, and maybe you could speak to that, to be attractive to the younger folks and a diverse, aside from age, but diverse individuals as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think there's an organization we've ever really talked to who said my board's perfect, nothing needs to be improved. Everyone sort of is struggling with a number of things. I talked to who it was the other day telling me that their board won't fundraise for galas because they have to fundraise for the other boards they serve on, and that's their, and I thought, well, why are they on that board? That's part, it's all the managing of expectations. But to answer your question, Tommy, we do something that you could do in-house. Again, going back to the pitch that we put together, doing this without consultants, you can do a lot of this in-house. And so there's something called a board matrix conversation. Some of you may have done before. It's essentially a grid, and I can share the template and point you to where a really great place online has this. It's not just looking for younger board members, like Tommy said, but it's where are the gaps in your board? That could be skills, that could be culture, that could be dollars. Do you have all, a board of all people you serve and not anyone with deep pockets? You kind of do need a mix of everything most of the time, unless you're fully government funded and funding isn't always a concern. So I really recommend the board matrix conversation, because then you come out of that with, strategically, who do we need? Do we not have someone with a finance background? Oh, okay. So it's not really just a younger person, but it's a new person. And then, you tap into your partners and others to really find the right people. And then there are the posting sites that we've seen success through. Part of the Nonprofit Resource Hub, actually, we have some great connections there with really basically posting a board member position like you would any other job description, because that's what it is, right? You really want to make sure people come in knowing what their expectations, what your expectations of them are.
So thank you, Christina. I just want to interrupt you 1 second. I've made a commitment, Christina and I've made a commitment this year to have you out of this meeting by 9:55, so you can have your 10 o'clock, grab more coffee, do what you need to do. Before I have one thing to wrap up at the end, but Vicky, ask your question quick. And if it was just to scold me for being an ageist, I'm not an ageist. I love everybody, right?
So Tommy, we know that about you. And actually, on the contrary, you're right on target, because the reality of what you're saying is true. So it's not, that is not in and of itself ageist or ageism, and the attraction of youth, or not only youth, but also whether it's diversity, inclusion, etc., to boards is very integral to, the development of your board and or, what your strategic plan in. And I know with, for instance, with Gray Panthers, we have interns that we're working with. And I have to tell you, these interns are amazing. One of the interns spoke at a Elder Day thing they did at the UN, and she was, quite impressive. So those are the type of, or the population, etc., that you're looking to attract. So you're not an ageist, don't worry. I will still kiss the picture of you I have hanging up. I won't shoot any darts at you. You're perfect.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. There's one quick point that Amy Fischer makes to fill in the gaps in your board. You can add board, an advisory board, a consulting board, an auxiliary board, right? Getting people, as correct me if I'm wrong, Christine and others, but I look at that almost like the farm team, right? Like
Yes.
they want to be on the big leagues. They want to, but we're sort of, is it a dual right fit? We're sort of interviewing each other, right?
It's the testing ground. It's
Right
a great
on.
testing ground, and you can do that without kicking people off your board, which is very tricky, we know sometimes.
No.
But it has to happen. But it's easier to happen if you've got your advisory board folks who are ready to go.
I want to share something really quick in the chat, and I'm going to share my screen really quick because we are just at time. Obviously, thank you, Christine, for your partnership and your leadership in the sector. So a little bit of love.
Thanks, Tommy, and everyone. I hope this was helpful.
Can you see my my screen real quick? No?
Yes, yes.
The Nonprofit Resource Hub? Good. Just want to make sure it's the right monitor. I'm sharing 12 o'clock this afternoon. I just put a link in the chat. If you are a member of the Nonprofit Resource Hub, you know about this. If you're not, now you do. The link in the chat will allow you to register. So I'm this is our meet and greet. It will be this afternoon from 12 to 1:30 on Zoom, breakout rooms, the whole thing. No bagels and coffee, although I do owe you all bagels and coffee someday soon. But that's that link is in the chat. Join us if you can. Really kind of calling out some of the folks who may not be familiar with our community and be involved with us. Take us up on that, and you can reach out to Christine or I with questions about Nonprofit Resource Hub, or obviously this series as well. Be ambitious yet realistic when you're strategic planning. And then smart strategic planning is vital for sustainability and success. And Susie sold seashells by the seashore. Yes, she did. And Christine did strategic planning on Zoom. All right, so listen, this is the Nonprofit Executive Leadership Roundtable. I'm Tommy D, the Nonprofit Sector Connector. That's Christine Deska. Reach out to us. We'll follow up with information. Let us know how we can help you out, and make it a great day. I'll see you guys later. Bye.